Okay, guys, we're gonna do this. Ain't gonna
All
lie,
right.
I'm a little bit nervous though because how long has it been since we did this damn thing?
At
What, like
least
7 months?
6 months. Yeah, it's
God
been
damn.
a while.
Okay, so I
September?
usually,
September was the last time?
yeah, yeah, but before my life
Yeah,
Yeah.
changed,
end of September.
Yeah.
kinda. Okay, so I usually,
Through
okay,
natural disaster, we've
uh huh.
made it. Yeah.
So
Feels pretty good.
I usually do an intro, right, and then we
Yeah,
cut.
that's that semi somewhat maybe thing, right?
Oh, that was such a dumb thing I used to say. Seriously. Okay, so I do Ryan and Keith or Keith and Ryan?
Come on, you know who's the money here. It's Keith and Ryan.
Okay. So three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Welcome back to a very special edition of the Byte That Wrestling Podcast, the somewhat maybe international professional wrestling podcast where we talk about that which we love, which is the world of life technically, because I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So
We just
things,
we just love talking about the
yeah,
world in general.
flowers and water
The
and
grass.
carbohydrates, because why not? So
Carbs.
folks.
Carbs are my favorite thing on the
Oh,
planet.
dude, who doesn't love carbs? Although there's this
Oh,
keto diet. No. People, my name is Juan Velas. I am from the still existing San Juan, Puerto Rico. Joining me for this historical reunion of the Byte That wonderful podcast, we got Ryan McNulty from Boston, Massachusetts, and Keith Poshik from. So where are you, Keith?
London, Ontario, Canada.
Okay, can I just say, is it like wrestling where I can just still say you're from Winnipeg just because it's the place people know the most, or
Yeah, I guess you're technically right. It's like when they used to say Chris Benoit is now residing in Atlanta, Georgia.
Keith, of
That would
all
that
the
would be
examples, you got literally thousands
Man,
of
we're not
examples.
even like 3 minutes in. We already get a Chris Benoit reference.
I know what
Keith,
I said.
you bastard, I missed you so much.
This has been building up for like 6 months. I
It's
needed to just
insane.
let it all out.
So
Explode.
okay, so real talk. It's been a crazy ride. Bite that ended about 6 to 7 months ago,
There's a
and
joke about the ultimate thrill ride in there. I'm gonna stop
no,
interrupting you
no,
now. I'm
no.
That
sorry.
See,
was so last year, man.
yeah,
That
dude.
was so last year.
So hell, dude, people still got the "give me the green light" meme. Like, did you guys see that Bobby
I
Lashley?
saw
Okay,
that
Ryan, I know you
today,
don't
that
watch
Bobby
wrestling.
Lashley thing.
It was amazing. It was amazing. But okay, let's backpedal a little bit. A lot has happened. For the first part, like I was not even part of the end of Bite That, and that absolutely killed me because of Hurricane Maria. So like it was crazy because this is kind of like the first time that the three of us really just sit down to talk. That's not one of Ryan's streams or Keith popping up and being alive, and we talked on Discord. But when we got on Skype today, like the last message that I sent to Keith on Skype was on September 13th, my birthday last year, where I was wishing both of you the best of luck on the show because I forgot what happened. I mean, apparently I wish both of you guys good luck on the show. So
Yeah, I
I
guess you
guess I
like
wasn't
had
part of
enough
it.
internet.
Were
You had
you
enough
away or
internet.
something?
I have no idea, but
Is that when the storm was happening?
it happened a couple days after. Happened a couple days after, but I remember we had that because we had two hurricanes. So okay, this podcast, first of all, the format is it's really not going to be a podcast. It's going to be more for everybody that tuned in for a long time and supported us, and I think we needed to have some closure. I remember I listened to both of you on the last official show, and it's like it did feel weird, right? Where it was only two out of the three of us, and then we weren't able to like really just talk, right, and have some closure. So more so than talking about wrestling, yeah, there's going to be part of that. We got your questions, so thank you to everybody that sent those. But really, we're gonna make sure that everybody knows just what's been happening and sort of what led to this. So we got two hurricanes in Puerto Rico, guys, and Keith and Ryan and everybody listening. I sincerely hope that none of you ever have to go through that horrendous thing. The first one wasn't so bad for at least me, but I remember the second one. I think it was me and Ryan were having a Skype session. You and I talked like the day before the hurricane, something in
Yeah.
some form. And I was like, I don't know, man, but I get the feeling like shit's going to go down. Like this is not going to be a weak thing. And holy crap, yeah, if you think about it, the only person that I spoke to outside of Puerto Rico after the hurricane for months was Ryan with that one phone call because after
Oh,
hurricane
right. Yeah.
Yeah, Keith,
Oh,
you're in
I
Canada.
remember that. I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that I
Yeah.
talked to you on the phone before one of the Byte That episodes, maybe even the last one. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I
something like
think
that.
so because we had that update on the last show. It's all coming back to me now that you were still alive, all was
Dude,
good.
it was insane because we phone service was out for months. Like completely just like really wasn't working for about 2 months or so. Like where I live, phone service is still not 100%. Like we got a lot of power outages. If the power's out for more than 2 hours, no phone. Like data, it's all gone. It's still
Wow.
horrible. So the only reason I was able to call Ryan then was because Nicole's grandparents, we live on the second floor of a 2-story building, and they had a landline phone, and that was surprisingly enough still working. So I'm like, okay, this may be the only chance that I get to talk to any of you for I don't know how long. Like Ryan was like, hello? Like,
Probably like, what's this
Ryan?
weird number?
Yeah, it's like I don't want to buy like insurance, sir. I'm like, Ryan, it's me.
No, I believe I
It's
have
me.
you in my phone, so it said Juan coming up.
No,
So it's
because
like,
it wasn't even my number.
was it not? Oh,
No,
maybe it wasn't
it
then.
was Nicole's grandparents. See, you don't even
Ah, okay.
remember. Keith, you and I are going to talk about the hurricane. No, but to summarize it, like after that, it was about I got power back at our apartment on the 1st of November. Keep in mind, the hurricane happened on the 20th of September. I still know people that don't have power today in Puerto Rico. Today,
That's
like
insane.
April 11th. We're just around the corner from hurricane season, and we still get power outages all the time. Like, at least on a weekly basis, power will go out here. Like a place set on fire, like a thing. We got 2 versions of the podcast. We got a video one and we got an audio one. I'm looking for something on my phone I can show here. Hopefully I can find it. That's a selfie of me. Okay, this is getting awkward because I can't find the picture. So eventually I'll find. Okay, there we go. There we go. Like this happened on Sunday. Like just a thing randomly set on fire across the street for a little while. So power went out yet again. So what led to this is that I was like, how in the hell do I listen to both of you? Because it's like there's the final episode. Not only do I not get to be a part of it, I don't get to listen to the damn thing. I had to go to Nicole's father. But that's my father-in-law, right? In English.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Every time I'm about to translate something, I'll never forget the whole like bi-curiously or invicuriously thing. So I'm like, Juan, be very careful with what you say. So there's no internet in Puerto Rico anywhere except that one building. So I downloaded the episode and I was listening to it on the corner of an office space. And I'm just like listening to you, and it's like I literally have no way of reaching out to you guys or talking to you, and it was heartbreaking. So I've talked a lot. I'd like to know, like, what was your guys' experience, if you even remember, for that episode, given sort of everything that happened.
It really sucked because the last 4 weeks, I think, were just I think even the episode we announced, because like a lot of things were happening at that point in
Oh yeah,
time. Keith and I were both like Keith before me was already like relocating for like a new job opportunity. I was gonna be starting a new job. Um but what that led to was like Juan and I think in either early September or whatever, it was you and I on the podcast, and that's when we announced that we were ending things. And then the hurricanes happened. So then the last couple weeks it was me and Keith. So it was like after we just like announced that we never had a podcast with the 3 of us. So doing that final podcast, it didn't feel right, which was why we were very clear that this was like the last episode for now, but that there would be at least one more
and here we are.
because we need to end it with all 3 of us. Like that's how it has to
End it.
be. So it did very much feel like the end in a lot of ways, but like I've always had this in the back of my mind that hey, we got one more. So it's never felt completely gone, maybe as it would to others out there who had been listening, because I always knew that we were coming back for one more.
Yeah, it just didn't feel right at the time, not finishing it with all 3 of us. And like you mentioned, at the end there was never a week where all 3 of us were there at the same
Yep.
time. Like I relocated, so I was off the grid for about a month. And then right after that, that's when the hurricane hit. Like, the time, as good as it could have been, the timing worked out well, because where you had to go, that's when I came back. Like, we didn't run into a scenario where Ryan was by
Yeah.
himself
I
for a
always
week.
feared that solo show. I
It
always
almost
feared that
happened.
solo show.
It almost
Yeah, it
happened
was
because
really close.
yeah, there was one episode. Was it the episode? No, it was the week before we announced the show was going to end. That episode, something happened. My power went out. And I think you even sent a message or something, and then we recorded the podcast on Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
before that. And
Thank
here
God
we
that
are.
didn't happen. But now
Yeah.
here we are. We came back. Even at the time, we said there's going to be one more. So it never really felt done. It was like a goodbye for now. But now we have the opportunity to really put a nice little bow on it with all three of us here. And I'm happy about that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess the first thing we should really like talk about that related is
No.
Well,
The
oh,
first
God.
thing we need to do, it
Oh,
wouldn't
God.
be a Byte That podcast if I did not have an energy drink with me.
Oh, what you got? That's Monster Energy. What?
This is a Monster Energy Zero Ultra. It's all right. It's the best I could find, and running into a gas station after work. So I'm gonna open it now and have a little sippy poo.
Okay, so swig of. Damn, my water bottle's empty. Ryan, do you have something? I can at least
Yeah.
like,
I got some water in my NXT cup
guys.
from
Yeah.
NXT Orlando.
Cheers to
Swig-
just one
swig
more
for
show.
Byte That.
Ryan, don't drink yet. What the hell?
Sorry.
I don't
We
even have
cheered.
water in my thing. True. But now,
All right, now continue.
by the way, that was the thing we used to do for the patrons. I do miss doing the Patreon show, like that pre-show thing. Pre-show.
Yep.
We just talk about random shit like Ryan's diet, which we're still talking about today. So some things just
Yep.
do not change. But the first topic that I guess we really need to not justify but reflect on is the actual fact that the show was going to end. So for those that maybe forgot, like how this really happened, that day that the power went out, I remember there was like speculation about whether Keith was part of the show or not for whatever reason, just because like Keith was absent for a little while. And the
Yeah.
moment we announced it, people were like, oh, shit went down between the three guys. Something happened. And then like Keith comes back, I'm gone. It's like, holy
Yeah,
crap.
it looks
The real
bad.
story is we hated each other. We just
Oh,
each
yeah.
other's guts.
No, this Canadian man just I love Canadians, just not named Poshik. But so that day that the power went out, Ryan and I the power came back, but we had already canceled the episode. We said that we were gonna record the day after. So him and I just got on Skype and we started talking like just about like wrestling, the podcast, and him and I, because Keith was moving, right? So he was out of the picture. We just started talking about the show, just sort of like, what's her energy like with wrestling, with the WWE, and up until that point, we never verbally talked about it because we both knew, like, if we talked about it, this was going to end because
Yep.
the three of us felt like this, but at no point did we feel comfortable actually having the conversation. So it's just like, you know what? Let's just talk about it. And ultimately, we figured it out that we love doing the show. We love Byte That, and we love like getting everybody's comments, on social media, on YouTube, and all that. But the passion was long gone for what we were watching. It became more of a weekly habit, just because it's what we have been doing for up to 4 years, rather than like, oh, guys, I cannot wait to talk about this and this and this. So we realized that we were going to end it, but we weren't going to announce it. We announced it like how many? Like 2 weeks after, I think, more or less, 2 to 3 weeks.
It
Yeah,
was,
how about that?
not too much longer after that conversation.
Yeah. So looking back, I guess the immediate question is, do we feel different? I'm going to leave Ryan after because I know Keith and I maybe are a little bit different about this. Do we feel different about wrestling now than we did 6 to 7 months ago? Let's kick it off with Mr. Pushak.
100%. In my time away, I really fell in love with wrestling again, just from the way I watched it. Like you had mentioned, Juan, you feel an obligation when doing the show week to week to really keep up with the weekly grind of things. And even if the content is mediocre, which, let's be honest, it was, you still need to watch it, and you still just need to plug away at it. But in this time away, I've really just been able to cherry pick what I want to watch. Like if I want to turn off Raw, I can, and it's the best feeling in the world. If I want to say, hey, I'm not very interested in what's going on in the WWE right now, I'm going to go check out New Japan. I can do that and feel good about it. Don't have to put these 8 hours a week aside for Raw and SmackDown. And being able to do that has really made me fall in love with wrestling again. And it just came down to how I consume the content. Like, I'm honestly right now, I'm probably watching more wrestling than I did back then, but it's just stuff I want to watch. Like, I'm consuming more podcasts now. I've fallen deeply in love with the Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard
Which that's coming
podcast.
to the network now, right?
Yeah, it's really exciting. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's exactly what my wrestling brain needed. It just goes into like an episode is all about WrestleMania 4. Then they talk for 2 hours about like all the stuff leading into WrestleMania 4,
Oh,
all like the
nice.
whole backstage business. It's a great podcast. I listen to it every week. I'm not keeping up with Raw and SmackDown as much, but always make a note to at least read the results and just looking outside the WWE. Like I've watched a lot of New Japan since we stopped, mostly Bullet Club related stuff. But now I'm at a point where I can like say confidently that I know what I can pick out the top stars of New Japan and tell you what they're doing at a given time. And kind of diving into the indies a little bit too with Ring of Honor and just enjoying it. The
Are you
break
all in?
was I wish I was all in. If I had the means to go to that show, I 100% would.
Yeah.
But as much as I miss doing the podcast weekly, this break was the best thing that could have happened as far as my love for wrestling goes.
Yeah, I think that before Ryan starts, I want to have, after what we're talking about right now, have a conversation about exactly that. I think that a lot of people, and this is just food for thought for Keith and me to desk, like, well, Ryan just destroys wrestling in a couple of minutes. We got a question from Aman Quatra. I'm hoping I got the question right. We do have a question segment, so you're going to get Keith reading the question, so don't worry. But that person wrote, if you still follow wrestling and enjoy talking about it, then why don't you guys continue doing it? Rome wasn't built in a day, and it's going to take time to build a base and grow the way you want to. But if you give up too early, then all this effort will be to waste. I completely get this person's point. I just want to have this be on the table, because after this, I do want to talk about the difference of
Yeah.
being a wrestling fan versus doing a wrestling podcast and watching wrestling, which I think are we have realized they are two insanely different things. So with that being said, Ryan, just do you become
Do
Keith,
do
become
what you
Keith
need
for a
to
night.
do. Do what you need to
Well,
do.
no, I don't think, at least at this exact moment, I'm gonna just go off on wrestling.
Go
Really,
off, Ryan.
I just
Bury everybody.
my approach was that I just needed to be away from it all. Like, I pretty much completely stepped out of it. I will admit, though, like, I kind of very much like an addiction. I needed to kind of like wane myself off of it. Like, we were going into Hell in a Cell, and I still ended up watching that like Shane McMahon, I think Kevin Owens Hell in a Cell match, because I still had I had canceled the network, but I had still had time left on it. So I admit, even after Byte That had ended, I was watching a little bit. I wasn't watching Raw and SmackDown. I haven't watched I haven't watched like more than a YouTube clips of that since we
How's
stopped.
that feel, Ryan? How's that feel?
It feels amazing. It is exhilarating. I recommend it if you're, I mean, you guys aren't really watching it anyway, but
So how do you feel
um
overall, like, with that time away? Do you feel different about it than then?
um yeah, well, sort of. Um, but basically, I just kind of checked out, and after my network subscription was up, I pretty much like I still get app notifications from the WWE app, so that kind of keeps me up to date with what's going on. And occasionally, like my Reddit feed still has Squared Circle, so if something piques my interest, I'll take a look. I listen to the Edge and Christian podcast for a little while.
So good.
Every once in a while, I'll
It is
like
a good
listen
show.
every once in a while I'll listen to a couple minutes of like Solid Monster or whatever, but then eventually I find myself like, that's the I like I'm not as into this, so I'm just like not gonna finish listening to it. But yeah, what I needed was like pretty much just to be away from it because I was just so burnt out on it. And like I said, as we were ending things, um, just I felt like I was projecting like on WWE. Like I wanted it to be this thing that it's just never going to be, and I have to accept that, and I have to find other entertainment out there that's going to fulfill my needs for entertainment. And right now wrestling just doesn't fit that criteria for me right now.
Yeah, for me, the transition was honestly kind of forced on me because I mean I didn't have power. I couldn't watch anything even if I wanted to, right? So it was a situation of, well, we were going to be doing this anyway, like regarding wrestling, in the WWE. I remember it was around early August. No, it was SummerSlam. Like SummerSlam, and I think I said it on the last podcast I was in. SummerSlam marked the beginning of the end for me in regards to I felt indifferent. I didn't even like I wasn't like upset. I wasn't like, oh man, I really do wish this was different. I felt like CM Punk and Dan O'Brien and like Undertaker could form a stable to challenge like Marvel and DC combined, and I would be like, I don't care. I was just so burnt out. And like after Maria happened, after the podcast ended, I kind of had like this whole process of thinking like, what do I love about wrestling? Because at that point I was just so burnt out on it. So it was this process of really begin to identify like, why did I love wrestling as a kid? Was it the storylines? Is it the matches? And I really got to thinking about like, what were we complaining so much about the show? And I think that in large part was one of the reasons we also ended the podcast. Like I think Ryan, you and I talked about that a lot, which is that we didn't want our lack of enjoyment of the WWE. We didn't want to have that transition to everybody that was listening to this show because I
Yeah.
was the first person that I would stop listening to a podcast if it was just like a podcast that was complaining nonstop, and I truly do feel like either we would have those conversations or we would avoid them, but deep down we knew like that was our passion, like that's what we were where we were headed. Now, in regards to how do I feel about wrestling now as opposed to then, much like Keith, like it was around January because even though I got power back on November 1st, I was like, I still need time. I want to make sure that I don't force myself. I don't want to fall back into the habit. So it was around Wrestle Kingdom that I was like, okay, I want to have my jumping point not be WWE, just to be like away from that for a while. I think that I've only watched two WWE pay-per-views. It was Elimination Chamber and WrestleMania. That's it. I've had options to watch other ones. I haven't. And I love Wrestle Kingdom, and that really piqued my interest. So I started watching a lot of New Japan, kind of like Heath. I dropped off a little bit recently just because work's been really hectic. But I just loved that it was so great. I started picking up NXT again. And the best thing that happened with 205 Live is the whole Enzo Amore situation. Because then after that, it was this hard reset where all of a sudden 205 Live became like a legitimate sport, having awesome matches. It was like I remember when Keith and I did a Cruiserweight Classic review and we would watch it every week. That's become a weekly thing. Like the Cruiserweight Classic is officially a show on the network now that's on every week. And I was like, okay, this is what I look for in wrestling. And then I saw unsubscribe to WWE's YouTube channel. Like for a while, I literally did not know what was happening on the main roster up until the Chamber. When I started watching Chamber, it was this whole thing of like, it took me maybe 10 minutes, like when you fall back into a show or something, it's like, where are the people, like where's everybody at, like Sasha.
Yeah.
I quickly realized like, honestly, I don't feel like I've missed anything. So I watched like 2 or 3 clips on YouTube and I'm like, I haven't watched Raw. It was September, October, November, December, January. So about 5 to 6 months, yet I could feel like I could explain to you what has happened. And that's when I had this like large realization, and I think Ryan and I talked about that on a Twitch stream or something. The weekly television shows for wrestling kill wrestling because they are so irrelevant. They literally serve no purpose. Like I have not watched a single full episode of Raw or SmackDown since the podcast ended. I've watched maybe a couple of seconds, couple of minutes. I've really watched like maybe 10 minutes, if not more or less, on YouTube, and I feel like I could tell you everything. And when I watched WrestleMania, which we'll talk about in a second, I'm not going to say I really enjoyed WrestleMania, but I love this whole event feel as opposed to well, here's yet another show on top of the 3 hours, on top of the 2 hours, on top of this. It's just like, I just want a little build up, which I can get on the YouTube clips, and I just want to enjoy the pay-per-view. So I realized I just don't like the WWE formatting. It's not a matter of the roster, because the roster, if anything, has gotten better. Talk about Braun Strowman. You officially have Woken Matt. Jeff is back. You got Balor. Like, almost everybody that was injured is back. Samoa Joe, and now with Roman Reigns or something like that. So here is the perfect jumping off point, especially like the Raw after Mania. You got people from NXT. Freaking Bobby Lashley came back on Raw this week. It's like this. You have everything that should be a jumping point, yet I feel like, okay, that's what you do. That's what you do on the Raw after Mania. And then we go back to like hating it in a couple of months. And I realize like that's just not for me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, and for a while, I and Juan can attest to this. I was kind of like bitter about wrestling when I was like following the podcast, and I kind of just eventually came to the conclusion that there is essentially no reward for watching weekly Raw and SmackDown, right? And people will say, "Oh, there's a great promo now and again," and the way I look at it is, if you can get 100% of the context from just a clip on YouTube that
Or
is a
video
highlight,
package.
what is the point of actually watching the show in full? Because, okay, there's a TV show like Westworld. Hey, I'm excited for season 2. If you haven't watched it, you guys should go watch it. But right, someone could show me a highlight of episode 5 of Westworld, and I'm going to see it, but I'm not going to be able to fully appreciate that unless I watch through the whole season, or I watched an entire episode, or whatever. Like, there's incentive to actually sit through an entire episode of that. And I know wrestling is not the same as like a drama or whatever, but it's like, give me a reason that this is must watch TV throughout. Like, if this is truly a must watch television show, then I shouldn't be able to get 100% of what I need to see from like 20 minutes of YouTube clips. So that's what I'm saying, when there really is no reward for sitting through the week to week for the most part. And like Juan said, we've seen enough storylines that we can pretty much gather what's going on when it comes to the events where the results actually matter.
And I think that's what sort of leads to the question that I mentioned earlier. Like, why do we stop the podcast if, like, right now, I know that people are listening to me and Keith, and I guarantee you there's going to be a comment of, well, why don't you two do a show, or you guys do like a monthly show? Because I've seen the tweets. We still have the Twitter people. We get them, right? But
I even turned on notifications recently. Crazy.
Keith tweeted.
Oh,
No, forget that.
snap.
Keith tweeted. He tweeted
I did.
people.
Multiple times. I
Oh
was
my
even live on the
Oh.
internet.
Oh my God. Keith,
Crazy.
I just had an orgasm listening to that. Keep going. Keep going, baby. Keep
Good
going.
God Almighty. What do you want me to?
No,
what do you want me to
I'm
say?
just going to keep going now. But okay,
All right.
the next thing is the difference between being a wrestling fan versus, once again, doing a podcast. And I think like that right there, and Keith pretty much hit the nail on the head, where the podcast has a responsibility, which the three of us have been very dedicated to it. I've listened to podcasts. Peter Rosenberg. I won't mention small podcasts. I'll mention big podcasts. I mean, Peter Rosenberg. There were multiple episodes where you could tell the man did not have a clue as to what was happening on a week-to-week basis, bad or good. Didn't matter if the show sucked or not. You have a responsibility as a podcast and as a podcast host to, like, hey, if you're going to talk about something, I don't know, maybe watch what you're talking about.
Yeah, you want to have like WWE when it comes to it. If you're doing a podcast about wrestling and you want to be successful, the reality is you're gonna have to. I mean, all right, I shouldn't say it like this, but in general, if you want to have the largest possible audience for a wrestling podcast, at some point you have to cover WWE. It's just the reality of it. I'm not saying you can't have a successful Ring of Honor, New Japan podcast or whatever, but in general, that's what we all watched. That's what we decided to cover. And you have a responsibility to cover as much of that as you deem relevant.
Or at
And
least like the
if-
base, which in this case
Yeah.
would be Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah, and anything big that you don't cover is just a missed opportunity that somebody else will cover as well. Like somebody else will cover, and then maybe they like more people. It's just the reality of content creation. Anything you don't do is a missed opportunity. So you have to decide like what's worth covering. And we tried to cover as much relevant material as possible. and that means dedicating many hours a week to watching weekly wrestling.
And I mean, in my mind, it even comes down to a respect thing for your audience. Like, if somebody is going to give you the time of day to take an hour or 2 hours out of their day to listen to you, you should at least give them the courtesy of being knowledgeable of what you're talking about.
And that's what really comes down to. And there's an added stress to that, right? Where what do you do when
100%.
you're not exactly enjoying the show that you're watching, but you got to watch it in order to have a show? That's why, like, for a long time, like the Patreon pre-show, that became like my favorite thing, because it was just like 10 to 15 minutes of whatever, because that's probably like the thing I miss the most, which is that after the podcast, I mean, we're still friends, we're still family. I mean, hell, like after 10 years, like it's just going to keep happening forever. We're stuck with Keith Ryan, regardless of whatever we do. But I mean, we haven't really talked, on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis. We had a thing where every Wednesday, the three of us would talk. Whether we like Raw or SmackDown, most friends cannot commit to something like that. And, the podcast ended. All three of us have power, but, Ryan's streaming or I'm recording and Keith is gone. And, we have life, like we have relationships, we have work, we have responsibilities. And it's amazing, right? That for 4 years we had this weekly commitment, and meeting up every Wednesday was like of course that's what we do. But then the moment something ends, it's like something immediately takes its spot, and all of a sudden that availability that was always there every Wednesday is then filled up by other stuff.
Yeah, when
right?
it's not a requirement to be there, all of a sudden, like, other things just immediately fill that void, and it's hard to find the time. Like, I think there's only been maybe one other time before this where all three of us have talked, and it was during like a stream. It was during your like the Monster Hunter stream. Yeah.
And I mean, that's just being healthy about it, right? Because if the amount of time that we devoted to wrestling per week, if you just sit there and do nothing for that, that's not a healthy way to live. And it helps take your mind off the fact of, like, you mentioned a joke about like kind of being an addict about it. It really is a very similar situation where you try to busy your mind and not think about Raw for 4 hours on Monday night and SmackDown for 2. It was a good way to live. And the whole reason to end it, like, that's what it came down to. It wasn't anything about views. It wasn't anything about growth or anything like that. I can only speak for myself, but I was more than happy with all that. It just came down to falling out of love with wrestling and the way we were consuming it.
Yeah, agreed. If anything, I think we were making more wise decisions to like towards the very end with like the live show, the Patreon show. I think like because we did have a lull like on the production side, on the Byte That side of things. We did have a couple of months where we were just kind of like doing things, but we didn't really like have like a clear goal. And it wasn't up until the end where it's like, okay, so this is what we're doing, and I guess the next question is, what was life like the first couple of weeks after the show ended? For me, honestly, I mean, I didn't feel any difference because of my situation, but in your guys' case, how was that? Like the Wednesday after the show ended, like we're never doing, I mean, this doesn't count, right? Like we're never doing this again. How did that feel?
It was weird. It was very weird. Just like thinking to myself, like, okay, gonna go home, do my normal after work before podcast routine, and then it hitting you like, no, you don't have to do that anymore.
You get on Skype, like me and Ryan, we're not online.
Yep.
And it's just me by myself, all by myself. And honestly, I missed it. As done as I was with wrestling at the time, I missed the whole, I really missed you guys. As sad as it sounds.
Keith, I love you, baby.
But if you do something weekly for that long, it feels off when you all of a sudden just stop cold turkey. And really making it sound like an addiction. But it was just so strange. And here we are. Here we are.
Yeah, it definitely took me a while to get used to not having an obligation on Wednesdays. Like, oh, hey, can you do this for me on Wednesday? Can you meet me here on Wednesday? It's like, yeah, I can actually. I'm available.
Or like, do you want to hang out Monday nights at 9 o'clock? Yeah,
no,
I can do that.
I will tell you, because like we said, we were dedicated to covering WWE content. our lives were at the mercy of the schedule of WWE.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy where it's like, okay, Monday nights I can't do anything, Tuesday nights I can't do anything, Wednesday nights we got to record the podcast. I'm not available. Then every once in a while, Sunday night, I can't do that. Got to watch the pay-per-view. So there was a lot of time where we were really at the mercy of the WWE schedule. So to now be on just completely my own schedule is so freeing, and it's great.
Yeah, I'd say for me, like the biggest challenge was around once again January because even though we got power back in November, it's like Nicole and I had a trip. We went to New York, so it wasn't up until we came back and the new year began that it's like okay, so day one, power's back, water's back. I'm working, but I had that lull where even though I had a YouTube channel and I still have it, we'll talk about what we're up to afterwards, but like I've always talked about like the mental health side of things, like my recovery and stuff like that, and for me, Byte That honestly was therapy. Like for me, it was like it didn't matter how much of a shitty day I was having, which you guys know, like around that time, like my work was not all that great. Things were way
We
better,
were on
way
hard
better now.
times, daddy.
Yeah, hard times. But having that lull of like, okay, I need to have some sort of commitment to, from a production side. Like for me, like opening up OBS and Audacity and record and editing in Premiere, like that to me is therapy. So I did have like a month long crisis of like, what the hell do I do? So that's like Nicole and I bought a brand new camera, and I've been traveling recently due to work. So I'm also taking advantage of that to record stuff. So it's really been a matter of like finding myself as a content creator because I truly do enjoy that, and I think like realizing like what impact, and we'll talk about that like in the questions part as well. Like a lot of people were emotionally invested into the show. I mean, hell, I cried like the day we realized we were going to end the show. Like the day after, it's like Ryan and I kept texting back and forth when we realized like it was going to happen. I feel like we broke up. It was like,
Yeah,
if I
it
could find
felt
those text messages, my
it
God.
was such a guilty feeling.
Yeah.
Like we were letting everyone down.
Yeah. But it is what it is. So transitioning a little bit to sort of some more wrestling talk.
Yeah.
So
After
WrestleMania.
all that talk about not talking about wrestling,
Yeah.
let's talk about some wrestling.
So WrestleMania, this is, dare I say, the showcase of the Immortals.
Would you call it the granddaddy of them all?
No,
It is
wait,
the
aren't you
grandest
not
stage
allowed
of
to
them
say
all.
that anymore? Does it? Oh, it makes it sound old. Damn it!
It was a
damn.
trick question. Damn
Yeah.
it.
Are you ready to go? No?
Oh,
Oh man.
oh, yeah.
Damn it.
It's like it's a part
Oh,
of me now. That song is just a piece of me.
give me the green light.
Cause I'm ready to go. Let's talk about
Okay.
WrestleMania.
We can do this all freaking night, and I will kind of be okay with it. But okay, WrestleMania.
Yeah, we can.
Did the three of us watch it? Yeah or nay? Yes.
Yay.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan and I actually watched it together on via Discord. We got on. We watched wrestling the first
we
time
went
we
old
watched wrestling
school.
together. Yeah. Okay, so let's go with Keith first. Just overall impressions. Okay, did you watch like Hall of Fame, like out of WrestleMania weekend? In your case, Keith, what did you watch?
I watched some of the Hall of Fame, all of NXT, and all of WrestleMania. I fell asleep during Hillbilly Jim's speech and just
I
haven't
skipped it.
gone back and really finished that yet. I will eventually. But overall, I would say WrestleMania weekend was awesome. NXT is probably the best show I've seen,
Ooh,
period.
so
Takeover
good.
was so good. That, oh God, we'll get into that. And then
Yeah.
WrestleMania itself was all right. I was mostly disappointed with WrestleMania. There was some good matches. Like I would say that the Triple H, Stephanie, Ronda Rousey, Kurt Angle match blew away expectations. And while you had that, you had AJ and Nakamura kind of
Uh,
destroying all expectations, a huge disappointment. So it kind of balanced itself out where I would call it an all right show, but Takeover just makes up for that so hard. Oh my God, it was the best show. And
it was
it
so
made up
good.
for it. Made up for the 7-hour grind that was WrestleMania.
Yeah. So Ryan, I'm assuming you only watch Mania.
Yep, that is correct.
Okay. So talk to
Yeah.
me about that because you did. Okay, I
Yeah.
watched most of the Mania weekend. I didn't watch the Hall of Fame live. I watched some of the speeches. Hillbilly Jim didn't even watch it. Sorry, but Ryan. Okay, so talk to me first about WrestleMania as a whole, and then your favorite thing about it.
Okay, so this is the first like full wrestling show I've watched
Oh
in
boy.
like 7 months, and
You picked
oh
a
boy,
doozy.
oh boy. Uh, After watching this, I could firmly say I'm not ready to come back to wrestling. Like I still need time away
Not
because
ready to go.
Ryan,
yeah.
please do me one favor. Even if you're never gonna watch a wrestling show again,
Mhm.
give Takeover a try. Just
He's not
let
watching.
that
Think
be.
about it. I'll
Just,
think about it. I'm
just
probably not gonna watch
please.
it, to be
If
honest.
anything, just watch Gargano and Ciampa. You
Oh.
owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself.
We'll see. I got like
He's not
I
watching
literally
it.
used
Just tell me
a
yes, even if you're
WWE
gonna lie
Network
to
gift
me.
card.
Lie to him,
I
Ryan.
used
Just
the
say
WWE
yes.
Network gift card to resubscribe because I was given to me about two Christmases ago as kind of a joke gift. But it came in handy, so I didn't have to pay real money for the network. So I still got time. I could go and watch it. Um, anyway, my thoughts on the show, yeah. 7 hours, too damn long. I don't know how this is the show that's supposed to bring in new people. And by the way, we're probably not going to talk about XFL, but I mean, LOL at Vince McMahon complaining about the length of NFL games. And then he
Right?
turns around, it has 7 hour long wrestling shows. The length of WrestleMania is something that just needs to be addressed. And
Whew.
I honestly don't think it will at any point in time, but clearly it's an issue. It doesn't need to be this long. It really drags down every show. Like the fatigue sets in for every single crowd. This is a problem that happens every single year. By the end of the show, the crowd is so damn tired. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, Ronda Rousey had the best match of the night, something I did not see coming at all. It kind of took all the thunder from me complaining about Stephanie McMahon because it was actually the best match on the show. And I wanted to complain about how it was the wrong decision, but you know what? They must know something because that match really worked out. And it was cool to see that Ronda Rousey had a strong debut because she really is a great mainstream outlet for them. So that that was the only match that really got me excited. I was dying by the time we got to Nakamura versus AJ Styles. Like one can attest to this. I was so tired and I just
I
didn't
felt the
like
legitimate pain from Ryan.
yeah, I was just so burnt out from the show. Like it was just too damn long because like I'm not used to the 3 hour grind every week, you know, like that. I kind of built up some wrestling endurance during that time. Whereas like going like basically just diving headfirst into a 7 hour wrestling show after not watching wrestling for a while was a lot. So yeah, favorite thing was the Rousey match. Least favorite thing was probably just I don't know what was
WrestleMania?
I don't even it's just like the length of it. Obviously,
Actually, I have a
it just had
question
to be
for
the
you,
length of it.
Ryan.
Yes.
With how I remember you used to talk about wrestling and like the decisions that they made, how did you feel about a 10-year-old winning the Raw Tag Team
Ooh,
Championship?
yeah. Okay, okay.
I mean it obviously flies in the face of logic that WWE would just allow a child to enter a match without even signing a damn waiver. Well, the parents would have to sign a waiver, right?
Yeah,
True.
Um,
he was the son of a referee.
Well,
He was
yeah,
kayfabe though, he
well,
was just a random kid
yeah,
though.
Yeah.
but in kayfabe, like no
Yeah.
parents involved. They just put this child in danger. Flies totally in the face of all
Would you tell
logic.
Braun Strowman no?
But you know, I get what they're going for. They're trying to make Braun Strowman like over with the kids as well because it's like, oh, Braun Strowman, like that could have been me. The little kids could think or whatever. But I did find it hilarious the way that they were stripped of the titles, where Strowman's
Yeah.
like, yeah, he's got a scheduling conflict. So I
Fourth
know it's for
grade.
fun, but still, you know, applying logic, wrestling, whatever.
Even on
You
the
can't
reunion
do it. You
shows, Ryan
can't do
can't
it.
help it.
Yep.
So for me, pretty much on the same boat as both of you. Like, I was even tweeting like I had a really good feeling about this WrestleMania, and I kind of felt like that last year as well. I just feel like WrestleMania is so mainstream that it's just a matter of like that show's just not for us. Like that show's truly for the people that casually watch Raw and SmackDown that
I don't
check out
even
every
think
couple
Because
of
they got
pay-per-views.
7 hours to kill, right?
Exactly. I don't even think WrestleMania is for them because you're asking somebody that only watches 1 or 2 shows a year to sit down and consume 7 hours of content
Yeah,
till midnight on a Sunday. Like that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it
it's
is
the
and it
network.
isn't for the casual audience. Like it's supposed to be for the casual audience, yet like the other ways that the other ways that they put this show together just go completely against that. Like like casual audience probably wants something a lot shorter and easier to digest, and WrestleMania is just ridiculous.
Thing is, they do give you both because you go to the YouTube channel, you go to Facebook, they give you that anyway. So, and I mean, if you look at their stock, you look at all that stuff, WWE doesn't keep going down. I mean, they got their greatest Royal Rumble. That's happening soon with like Rusev and Undertaker in a casket match. That's actually going to be happening. I don't know if you guys read about that, but
Yeah.
financially,
Or Rusev.
WWE is showing that regardless of what the three of us and many people think, they're making the right calls because they have the super long show, or you can get condensed stuff on social media and stuff. Regarding my favorite thing
But
about
still, like
WrestleMania,
WrestleMania is like you're never gonna see those clips on YouTube. Like, you know what I mean? WrestleMania is meant to be that like broad appeal. And I don't know. I feel like they had it right, you know, 10 years ago. Like they had a 4-hour show. It's like basically the length of like the Super Bowl. And they just all of a sudden they've just gotten like out of control with 2-hour pre-shows, and like it's just and like now they go an hour over time. Like what happened to just like 4 hours is a very, very long thing to ask anybody to watch.
Yeah.
And I
there's
just
two ways
I
to
don't
look at it because
understand.
I've seen a lot of posts. You know, like one of the first things I did before I get to talking about like my favorite WrestleMania thing is that we've watched wrestling for a long time, and there's been people that obviously have watched it even longer than us. So we are not the target audience for that. So what we perceive as a long time, like look at all the kids in the audience and look at how much they're loving it. And ultimately, we're not parents, right? So we don't have that emotional factor of when we see a kid like joying, being super happy about it. Like we don't get that because we're not there, right? But you look at a parent, like I've seen many posts be like, people, you guys complain about this and that and this, but my kid met Becky Lynch and it's like this made it all worth it. And ultimately, that's their audience. And like I watch 205 Live, I watch NXT, and I'm like, hey, guess what? I'm still watching a WWE product. They're still winning. I'm still subscribed to the network because of that. Like, if anything, WWE's become smarter, which is just like, I'm going to give you everything and eventually something will stick. And once again, when it comes to money, they're making it, man. They got
Let me
a 50
just
man
say
Rumble.
though that like baseball and football are making efforts to shorten the length of their games because of like ratings going down and things like that. So I'm just saying that this is a trend that's being seen in other industries, and Vince McMahon himself has complained about the length of NFL games. So it's definitely something that like length of a game or show or whatever does affect mainstream audiences. So granted, it's only once a year as opposed to baseball games, like hundreds and hundreds of baseball games every year. So it may not be as big of a concern, but I do think it is something that definitely kills the audience, and also just what's the word? You're desensitized by the end of the show.
Yeah.
You've seen so much wrestling that, AJ versus Nakamura, all of a sudden I'm not giving a damn about it because I've just seen like 7 other matches before it, and I'm just a little tired at that point. And then the match didn't end up really living up to the hype anyway. So just like things like that can really make the overall show suffer.
Now, for me, my favorite thing had to be, which, I mean, what the hell? Like, who would have thought that Ronda Rousey would have the match of the night from an entertainment standpoint? And I mean, hey, when that green light was on for her, like, she looked better.
She was ready to go.
Yeah, it was like, whoa, where did this come from? It's almost like she's an athlete, It was almost like she was holding back on Raw and SmackDown or on Raw, because I saw the promos and they're still bad. Even when she came out, Ryan and I were talking like she's got to stop smiling as a fan. And I guess eventually, I mean, hell, you literally started on the biggest stage, so you can only go down. So I guess it's like, let's just super expose her to the world. So that way it's like she gets that fandom over like, hey, you're at WrestleMania. You're only going to go down from here.
Yeah,
so she
she
kind
I
of
mean
just
she
goes,
had it right
yeah,
during the match, but when she came out, like during her entrance, it was the
flabbergasted.
biggest like fan smile. Like if you threw any of us out onto a WrestleMania stage, we'd have that big smile on our face looking out into the
Yep.
crowd. But hey, whatever, whatever. It's like it didn't really ruin anything on that match because that was the best part of the show.
And
Very,
I
very
mean,
true.
she had Triple H and Kurt Angle in the ring with her, so it shouldn't be that much of a surprise that it was the best match of the night.
Well, true. I mean, and Triple H
Yeah.
ultimately, which is still a sad thing because Ryan and I, as we were watching, I kept saying, it's like, why does this feel like the big match? And it wasn't even because of Ronda. I think it's just like these people in the ring, they show that it doesn't matter how much flippy stuff you do, which I mean, almost any wrestler talks about, Stone Cold talks about, and it's not just like I'm not the next generation. I'm technically part of like the slightly older generation of wrestling fans. And it's just like these guys are not doing almost anything in that ring. Think about the match. Like, not a big deal, but that crowd cared way more about that than almost anything else during that night. And now, talk to me just a little bit about whatever the hell that main event match was between Reigns
Oh
and
boy.
Lesnar before we talk about Cena, because if this is the last show, we got to talk about Superfan Cena. But first, talk to me
Yeah.
about Lesnar and Reigns.
You just talked about how they don't have to do all that much in the ring and it being a good thing. The main event of WrestleMania was the opposite example of that, of when you don't do much in the ring and it's a bad thing. It was that wasn't a very good match. You expected it by a mile. It was worse than their previous WrestleMania
Yeah.
bout.
Yeah, WrestleMania 31 was actually a really good match.
And that was the expectation you had going into it, and they did not deliver that at all. It was just a couple of F5s, Brock getting sweaty and mad,
Something
and
was off. Something was
something.
legitimately off in that match.
And then even the whole like crazy Roman Reigns getting busted open thing. If you remember, like a year ago, they did the same thing with Orton. That's not even that original. It was just like, here's Brock Lesnar's greatest hits, and then Brock Lesnar wins. So there was a bit of a surprise from that, which is neat. But you've almost kind of crapped on this whole thing that we were anticipating for a year of this is going to be the person to finally beat Lesnar. The two people that beat The Undertaker are going head to head, and this is going to be Reigns' biggest moment. Now, say what you will about Roman Reigns, it kind of sucks that that wasn't the moment. This thing, because where do you go from there in as far as who beats Brock Lesnar? And
It will be
have
Roman. They just
yeah,
decided
but
like
you threw away your biggest
yeah.
stage for what then? Like that would have been the story.
Nothing.
Even though it's the story that we all saw coming, even back when we were doing the show, we were content with it. We were okay with it. And now there's no way it can have the same impact because you've seen him just get beaten like a government mule. So
You know why, Keith? Because this WrestleMania was the last Jedi of WrestleManias. There was
Hey.
swerves for the
Hey,
sake of swerves.
you watch your mouth because I love The Last Jedi.
Last Jedi is hot trash.
You are
I'm on
hot
the Ryan
trash.
side. I'm on the Ryan
I had
side.
to do
I
it.
hated
I
it.
had
I
to do
hated
it.
it.
You are
I had to
both
do
hot
it.
trash. It is a great Star Wars movie.
Sure,
It-
sure.
It's awful. Anyway,
You're
I feel like
awful.
they swerved just to swerve because
Swerve.
because last year, like the
Porgs
day after
are the best.
WrestleMania, everyone's like, WrestleMania next year, Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns wins. And you know what? Everybody
No.
called that, and it happened. Except it was
Oh, you
like,
mean
okay,
this
we're
year.
gonna do exactly what you thought to a T, except that Lesnar's gonna win instead of Roman. Like, oh, we gotcha. And I just look at it as you're just wasting our time. Just rip the Band-Aid off. Give it to Roman. We don't need a 4-year coronation of this guy. He's
Pass it
already
to
won the
Will.
title multiple times. Just have him beat Brock and get it over with. But that wasn't even my biggest issue with the match. It was just like, I feel like very much like the WrestleMania before with Taker. It seems like these Roman Reigns main events, at least in the past couple of years, like especially with Triple H as well, is it feels like they're not reading the room. Like they don't understand what the audience's perception and expectations going in is. Like, okay, all year you build up that one F5 is putting everybody down. One F5 puts everybody down. So instead of having Roman kick out of one and then win the match, he's got to kick out of five. It's like you just jump the shark with this. Like really, you build up the thing and then you just over Superman affects Reigns, and it's like it becomes laughable. It became a joke at that point where it's like you built this expectation and then you had someone just, it's like instead of climbing a hill, he had to climb Everest. Like you just went so over the top with it that it just became laughable. And then he just ended up losing anyway. So you're like, what the hell was the point?
Yeah, and you could have that could have been effective if they just kept doing the F5 thing like 5 times, but they just went to it like, here's an F5. Okay, he kicked out. Here's another F5.
Nothing
like
else,
there was
yeah.
nothing in between.
Yeah.
It was basically like getting all your your finishers and here comes the pain and then just spamming them over and over again.
They have a tendency to do this a lot with WrestleMania main events. We saw that with Rock Cena too. I don't remember how much they did it with like Taker Reigns, but it's something that they've done a lot recently. They get a little overzealous with the finisher
But usually,
kickouts.
even that's back and forth. Like this was so one-sided that it wasn't like F5 spear, F5 spear, 2 F5s, and then another spear. It was just here's 4 F5s. Roman kicks out over and over again.
Several spears in there as well, but
there was, but it was like after.
Yeah, it got to a
not
point.
to the degree.
So then let's just talk. We don't have enough time to talk about the build up for everything that led to this. So I just want to talk about Super Fan Cena, not Super Cena, Super Fan Cena, because Cena is such a dedicated fan of the WWE that he's just like, you know what? If I don't have a match with The Undertaker, at least I could be in that crowd, which to the credit of the WWE, seriously, they actually went all out. It's like, hey, if he's going to be in the crowd, he was there from the kickoff show all the way to the point where we even got a meme out of that, just like runaway Cena. So I love that in every match, like for the Cruiserweight match, they just cut to like a concerned Cena or a happy Cena. Man, can we just get
so
Cena
good.
like on the crowd of every show?
I wish.
Hopefully. So talk to me about that squash match, because Taker came back. The man meant business.
Not gonna lie, there's a part of me that's a little pissed that the Undertaker came back, considering we were at his retirement match.
Yeah.
Now we aren't.
But didn't you
that
see
was
like how
ripped away
Keith,
from us?
Keith, but the clothes went away, so it's like it never happened. You saw there was the thing, then the thing was gone, and then he came out.
A terrible lightning bolt effect, and then yeah, now Undertaker's back. But if we're going to have Undertaker matches at WrestleMania, that's probably what they should be like. Like the Undertaker probably doesn't have any more 25-minute classics in him, so might as well just come in, squash people, and then leave.
Kurt Hawkins,
I mean, hey,
you heard it.
Undertaker, he looked the best he's looked in years, but the match was also like 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
So I'd rather have Undertaker give us his best 3 minutes than to try and have like a 20-minute classic where he legitimately, okay, I get it. But where he legitimately has to be like carried out of the stadium. Very mature one, very mature. I didn't miss that part. Yeah. So Taker, it's like, how long is he gonna, like, seriously? When is he gonna retire?
I will go out a limb in saying that is Undertaker's last WrestleMania match, and that it's just going to be a segment.
He should retire at Survivor Series where it all began.
Yeah.
Or not even that. Just like have him come out as a segment. It doesn't need to be a match. Like say somebody accidentally mentions the Undertaker in a WrestleMania promo, and he comes and just stomps
I'm
them into
still
the ground.
here.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
he's
I don't
like
know. I gotta
the
say though, it's like basically the way that they advertised it was you weren't sure what was going to happen, so it wasn't this huge build up to like a 5-star classic between Cena and Taker, but it was like I wish there was something more because there was so much more story to tell with Undertaker and John Cena, and it really just became about whether or not he was going to show up, and that's kind of disappointing because like Taker was there to congratulate Cena on his first match. Like they are both like some of the most respected wrestlers out there. There was so much you could have done, and I hope that's not the end of their program. Like I hope they have some rematch down the line. Like I think John Cena would be a great person to retire the Undertaker. I think Undertaker does need a true retirement match. And maybe Survivor Series is that time.
Yeah, I think that's going to be what's happening. Because keep in mind, like John Cena's been magically weaker the past couple of months. It was very much the storyline of, I keep losing matches. I'm not going to be at WrestleMania. I'm not at WrestleMania. But then I take on Undertaker, who I've been calling out, calling him Mark. Like I've been breaking kayfabe essentially. But then he destroys me. So Cena looks like a dumbass in the process. And now it's like, well, how do you get back when the person that you've been poking fun of absolutely destroyed you at WrestleMania? You're not going to do it till next year. So guess what? You can end it where it all began for him, which is Survivor Series. And if they're going to be doing that storyline, I'm all for it because I absolutely think that John Cena should be the person that really gets that done. Now, with that being said, before we get to questions, our final Byte That wrestling topic. And Ryan and I were talking about this during WrestleMania, and I thought that it needs to be brought up now for context. We're talking about Undertaker and all these things that have been happening. So the question, starting with Keith, is: do you think, looking back now, it's been a couple years since the streak came to an end, was breaking the Undertaker streak at WrestleMania worth it?
Yes, no question there. Because even though you don't feel it today, what it did for Brock Lesnar at the time was exactly what Brock Lesnar needed. Just think about how like godly and unbeatable he felt going into that SummerSlam after WrestleMania when he beat the Undertaker's streak. It really solidified Brock Lesnar as like the final boss of the WWE to this day even, and you wouldn't have had that if the streak never ended. Now, should The Undertaker have lost twice at WrestleMania? That's where you kind of fall into the I don't know thing anymore, especially with Roman Reigns not even pulling it off and beating Brock Lesnar. Maybe that match shouldn't have happened, but The Undertaker losing at WrestleMania 30, 100%. I think that was a good decision.
Yeah, see, I do disagree, but I disagree more on the terms of because of the way they handled it afterwards. So, like, it's not even, I guess, a full disagreement because I think there was a way you could have done it, and it would have been like I mean, Brock Lesnar is a good candidate to end Undertaker's streak, but the fact that we continued to see Undertaker, like, it took like a long time before Undertaker seemed to even care about it. Like he just came back and fought Bray Wyatt and then later on finally addressed Brock Lesnar. So just the way that they handled it, I thought was not too great. So I would say based on the way things are now and how Undertaker's come back at multiple WrestleManias since, and the matches just do not have the same feeling that they used to, it seems like it wasn't worth it. I mean, Brock Lesnar, like I think there's other ways to give him an unbeatable aura. If they had never had him job out to John Cena when he came back, they could have easily given him an unbeatable aura by completely squashing John Cena at a time where John Cena was like very much invincible at that point in time. Like that was like 2012. Like
Yep.
that was just before, like that was basically peak Cena time, like right before he started kind of slowing down a little bit. So there was other ways to go about it, but if Undertaker lost to Lesnar, Lesnar was handled a little bit better, and we never saw Taker again, or that was his official retirement, I think it would have meant a lot more. But every time he comes back, I feel like it does cheapen the whole loss of the streak, because that was so big, that became everything that he was. And then just to have the way that they handle it afterwards, I feel like it's just year by year, it continues to get cheapened.
Yeah, for me, I think that because he's overstayed his welcome, I think that if the match with Roman Reigns, like, okay, fine, Reigns beat him, but if at least the match was good, then it would have been like, okay, but that match wasn't bad. It was an embarrassment, honestly. It just felt like Undertaker became a parody of himself. We were there live, and everybody was just like, oh no. Like, this is the
bad.
match where you can tell, like, you need to retire. So it wasn't just the fact that they lost the aura by Brock Lesnar beating him, but to Keith's point, it's like, okay, Brock Lesnar became more powerful. Taker's coming back. The whole, like, this is my arch storyline, blah, blah, blah. But then Reign beats him, but he beat, like, the super weak Taker. So then we get, like, Taker versus Bray Wyatt, which everybody forgot about. So he beats him, but it's like, hey, guess what? Everybody beats Bray Wyatt. Everybody beats the man. So then we get this match, and it's like a squash match. So you've had this, like, this roller coaster of matches that ultimately mean nothing because the streak is not a factor. You know, so what? Taker came back now, but it's been 4 years. Has it been 4 years since the streak came to an end? Yeah, 4, right?
30 to
This is
34.
34,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's been 4 years.
Yeah. So I think it's just a matter of WWE had no idea what they were going to do. I guess maybe Undertaker didn't say, like, hey, I'm just going to call it quits. So WWE's like, I got to keep using this guy. So ultimately, it's just a matter of I have overstayed my welcome, and I have no idea when I'm going to be done. Because even, like, what's the point of leaving the clothes in the previous,
Because I think
Mania?
he thought he was done. To be
But that's
real,
the thing. It's like,
yeah,
oh.
See, this is why Shawn Michaels hasn't come back. That's why he's smart for just not.
And he
coming
cut his
back.
hair now just to make sure. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not only
Yeah.
I'm officially never coming
Because-
back now.
In the
I
last
think-
week, Shawn Michaels has aged 30 years. It's kind of terrifying.
Yes.
But I think he saw basically, if I come back, they're just gonna ruin my legacy, and he's right. He's completely right. Yeah, like they keep every time he comes back, the streak just means less and less. But I think because he was holding off that hip surgery, and that's why he looked even worse in the ring the past couple of years. But then apparently he got the hip surgery. He was feeling better than ever, and could actually come back. And I think a lot of times Taker keeps coming back because he's like, oh man, that match shouldn't be my last match. And then it just keeps happening over and over again. But this actually, if this was his last match, which it isn't, because we know he's going to fight Rusev now, it definitely, even though it was a squash, it's a better note to end on, even like for WrestleMania. Like at least he can go out
Agreed.
in a much better way at WrestleMania.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the final Byte That Wrestling Podcast discussion. But we're not done. We're not done. We still just got we got a little bit more people. We got more left in the tank. Which Mark Henry had his kid wear the salmon color jacket. I don't know if you noticed that in the Hall of Fame, Keith. That was amazing.
And I was glad he wore it too.
No, I fell asleep before
Oh,
that.
damn.
I did see a clip of Mark Henry. I'm like, he's wearing the salmon jacket. That's all I needed. That's all I needed.
Well, he wasn't wearing it, but his kid was.
No,
so.
he was, wasn't he?
Was he?
was
I'm
totally-
pretty sure he wasn't.
I saw a clip.
The world word.
Hold
Well.
on.
Meanwhile,
I'm googling this.
people, this is the moment that you've been waiting for. Okay, I'm just gonna do this out of habit, but don't actually do this because there will be nobody to respond. Folks, remember that if you do want to send a question for the podcast, you can do so by sending a not real. Okay, Keith, this is like one of those old commercials that still air on the network, but they gotta blur out the phone number so people don't call. Like this is what I'm doing right now. So just in everybody's head, oh, did he wear the salmon jacket?
That says Hall of Fame 2018.
Okay, so I guess I was wrong. Yeah.
Here. Well, let me take care of this for you. Seem a little
What's happening?
I don't know.
Are you talking about the jacket or the questions?
The questions part. I
Okay.
got this. Homie's
Okay.
got this.
Do it, baby.
If you all have questions for the show, tough. There will be nowhere to send them out. this
Wow.
week, so
True
sorry
Keith
about
fashion.
that. So yeah. Thank you anyway. I mean, if you
hit Keith up on Twitter, I'm sure he'll answer in
Yeah.
a timely manner.
if
Just
you
at
want to
Twitter.
send them, if you want to send them to bytethatcast@gmail.com, I mean, there's really nothing that can stop you.
True.
But odds are we won't read it. But we'll read these questions.
We got some questions and comments. They're not all necessarily questions, but hey, we want to get you
Indeed.
guys involved in the process. So without further ado, Keith, take it
Yes.
away.
All right. Our first question comment comes from Jack A, who says, "What was your favorite thing about doing the podcast, and what will you miss most from it? Thanks, guys, from your biggest fan." Aw.
Thanks, Jack. For me, it really is building an entertainment product. Like, because I think that the easy question is always, we talked about it earlier, just us three sitting down, like that's the real answer. But just thinking outside of the box, it really is like building a show, even at the rough weeks where there were weeks where it was just like, man, we got nothing to talk about. And sometimes that would produce the best shows. Or when we'd almost go like completely off track, but then we'd see those awesome conversations and like the French fry episode or the pizza question. There was one episode where we got a question like that, and it's like we got more tweets.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
We got more replies for that than any other tweet or question for the show ever. So whoever sent that, you're awesome.
Yeah, for me, I would say aside from the obvious of us just like hanging out every week, which I definitely still do miss. My favorite thing is just like creating content, like having something, as Juan said, that we're building. Like I always just like to have that project that, like, aside from just my daily work life and you're trying to improve that, um it's like something you need. I always need something outside of my everyday like work, like your everyday job that you can work on, you can build. So you don't just go home, sit on the couch, watch TV, go to bed, and then do it all over again. I don't want to live that nightmare. Like I need something else that I'm working on, something else that I'm striving for. So creating content, and when I was very passionate about wrestling, like I really love that. And to see what we had created, to see it grow and to see people get invested, like it was very, very rewarding experience. So I definitely like feed off of that, which is why I haven't necessarily stopped doing things like that.
Yeah, I think that's what it comes down for me as well. Just the response you get, like when you get a message saying that, like, "Hey, you really made my week by posting this podcast. Like, I could just get away from the daily grind for an hour." Like to me, that is the most worth it thing you can have in the world when it comes to creating content. Just making something that can put a smile on somebody else's face and
Put a smile on that face.
and just being able to do that, like even if you hate wrestling that week, just knowing that you're doing it for the fans, doing it for the kids, just makes it all worth it. And then even though you said it was cliche, just the fact that we all hung out every week, it was like our little poker night almost, of us getting together, just shooting the breeze, having a swig of water for the working man every week, and then just making something that we could be proud of. It's I'll miss it.
Except for
a
that
lot.
Tyler Breeze video. I was not proud of that.
There are a lot of things I was proud of in the podcast, man. Just so many great moments, so many great times.
Wonderful moments.
Wonderful.
All right, and on that note, our next comment comes from Emlyn K, who asks, "How much have you kept up with the WWE? Can you do a reunion show every week, or at least after some pay-per-views? And most importantly, is Keith still the coolest guy ever? Don't answer that. We all know he is. I will answer that, and the answer is, of course."
Nice try, Elman. Reunion show every week. I'm on to you. I'm on to you.
Yeah. No, Keith is no. He's never been the cool guy, but no, Keith. It's so crazy because with you, like we said it like towards the end of the show. Like we would always have to like talk to you like, "Keith, we know you like them curse words and all that, son, but tone it down for the show." But then there was like one point where Ryan and I started going like, okay, Keith, you can be 20% you, then 10% you more. It's like we can keep bumping up the Keithness, and it's like all of a sudden you became the favorite person. I'm like, Keith became the favorite guy for being an asshole. Basically, it's like, what the hell?
I know. I was very restrained at the beginning. Then we slowly took the shackles off.
Took the chains are off.
I don't think I've ever been 100% Keith on this show because the world isn't ready for that.
No, ooh,
because we're not an X-rated podcast.
No.
Hold on, you're painting me in a bad light there, and I take offense to that. It's not
Like
that
we can
bad.
never show what you did to that goat, Keith.
No, I burned it for a reason.
Oh my god. But I think we did get a little into like how much we've kept up. So I've definitely been more checked out than Juan and Keith. But yeah, they're definitely still very much following things.
Yes.
Indeed.
So,
right.
that's it.
So that's it. I'm still the coolest person ever. So our next comment comes from Garrett C, who asks, "Do y'all still play PUBG?"
Yes, just got a chicken dinner 2 days ago, actually. So I've really been enjoying that. And screw Fortnite. I don't like it.
I like
it, people.
Fortnite better, but I haven't played either in quite a long time. But the last one I did play was Fortnite, and I liked it a lot more.
Yeah, I've kind of fallen off the battle royale thing. I lean more towards single player games these days. I'm kind of out of the multiplayer thing.
What you been playing?
I've played so much Monster Hunter in these last few months. I think I turned it on Monday, and I've clocked about 130 hours into Monster Hunter, and I'm in love with it. That, and I'm looking forward to Yakuza later this month because I've fallen deeply in love with the Yakuza series.
Yeah.
It's weird. But no PUBG. I still haven't gotten a chicken dinner in that game.
Really? Huh.
I've gotten like top 5 a few times in solo, but never a chicken dinner. I ain't got what it takes, kid.
Damn. You can get. Well, I'll guide you, Keith. We can get a
Please.
chicken dinner together, and then we can
Harry,
share the
my-
picture with Ryan.
My first single player PUBG game, I got second place, and it's been all downhill from there.
Yeah,
Wow.
you should have went out on top. Well, second from the top. I guess.
Yeah.
But thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Angie C, longtime listener, viewer of the show. Hi, Angie.
Hello.
They ask, "What's one thing you thought would have happened in the WWE by now, but hasn't, such as NXT call-ups, heel turns, etc.?"
Oh, I thought you were gonna read the other parts.
lot-
Okay.
No, I
lot.
stopped myself there.
A lot has happened. We've gotten like women's Hell in a Cell and things like that. Things I never thought would actually
Adam
happen.
Cole in WWE. We got a new
Yeah.
championship in NXT. Ciampa's
Yeah.
still alive.
Ooh, I have an answer for this one. I'm
Go for
gonna
it.
jump the line. I'm amazed that Bray Wyatt is still irrelevant at this point. Like,
That's true.
never hit it.
Not even the deletion could help. Although
No.
he could be walking now. Not really. Sorry.
But-
Sorry.
Do you think anything's gonna happen, or is
Oh,
it
hell
gonna be
no.
the same
Hell no.
old story? Oh.
Unless he like changes his look completely and the way he talks, like ultimately, that type of character doesn't work. The only reason that Walking Matt works, and I say works loosely in WWE, is because he's ridiculous. So whatever the hell happens, he is a parody type character in WWE. He's not the same broken character that he was in Impact Wrestling. Like, he's even way jokier here. And WWE doesn't treat him in the same light, because in TNA, in Impact Wrestling, like, he was a lot higher up on the tier list, where here he's very much like, here's the show, and then here's Matt sort of on the side, which Kurt Angle mentioned TNA on Monday.
Oh,
By
I
name.
saw that. I did see that clip.
that was pretty good.
They waited for
Yeah.
the company to die by name before they
I
mentioned it.
do have an
but-
answer, though. I did just think of something that I am surprised, and maybe something changed. I know he's injured now, but I am surprised we still have yet to get a singles Dean Ambrose heel run. Because I know I don't know if he was about to turn heel or something before he got injured. I wasn't really following at that time, but it seems like we have yet to get that, which is something that a lot of people have been waiting a very long time for. So
True.
that's definitely something that should happen at some point.
For me, Angie mentioned Roman Reigns' heel turn as an example. I actually would have expected something like that to happen by now, like a short-term thing, kind of like when Dana Bryan joined the Wyatt family for like those 2 weeks or a week or whatever, just to try things out because it seems like he is very much on the Cena train where it's like I can be an asshole 1 week, but then whatever, I'm Roman Reigns, but he has not been in the company for 10 years. Like I don't think anybody gets to just do that and the fans don't turn on you even more so than they've already had. And I think that for a long time, for a short time, I should say, he almost got out of that, like, let's just randomly boo Roman Reigns hole. But with everything that's just happening, it's like you don't just have him win at WrestleMania. Like now they're bringing it back down, I guess, with Samoa Joe, and who knows what could happen. But I really do think that even just like like a 1 month thing, where he can just be full out bad guy just to turn back to a babyface, I think that would do great for that guy.
Side note, Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns is low-key my favorite feud ever because it's Samoa Joe versus a Samoan named Joe. And it
True.
just makes me laugh every time. Moving on, our next comment, we got a comment from Shellsback Club Toy 2 TVT says, just come back for good. We wish. We wish.
Yeah, he writes, you guys are one of the few non-annoying wrestling personalities.
See, I was gonna leave that part out, not to throw shade at anybody.
Whatever.
Well, the only problem is they won't turn Roman Reigns heel.
Also, okay. We should just like for 1 minute have that kind of show right now. Just like
I can't.
The problem with the WWE. No, Keith, let me tell you, okay? Because see, I have a friend named Mark, and he told me that Roman Reigns, according to DaveMeltzer.net, he was going to turn heel. Roman Reigns was at WrestleMania, and he was about to beat Brock Lesnar, and they didn't do it. So the problem is that for the next 12 months, we're going to have this professional wrestling program where they are going to sports entertain us with Roman Reigns up until the next WrestleMania, and then only then will he win the championship, which is what the WWE has been brainwashing us to do for wanting to see that happen for years. This is why me, Ryan Michael McNulty, I do not condone the fact that the WWE is doing this.
And I just can't believe that they don't turn Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Dean Ambrose, The Miz, the Wyatt family, the Bludgeon Brothers, the New Day, the Usos, turn them all heel. It just writes itself. It just books it. They can book it all the way to SummerSlam. It makes no sense that creative can't write that. It's just, what are they doing?
No. You're not focusing on the main problem. You have talent like Kurt Hawkins and Heath Slater and Rhino. Hello.
We need to stop. All right.
Ryan, you okay, buddy?
Push gender. Don't hinder gender.
Oh, he's gone.
Oh, no. So our next question comment comes from Liam V.
Liam.
Who says, good luck, guys. Sorry I can't tune in as I'm on holidays. Well, I hope you're enjoying your holidays. But here's a question. Will there be a Keith Rap #2 for the reunion? Well, Liam, I'm here to say, sorry, there will be no rap today. Our next question comment
wait, Ryan, that kind of rhymed.
That just rhymed. That counts.
Our next question comment comes from Peter D, who says, aloha, guys.
Aloha.
While you were away, what wrestling did you guys watch, and how would you rate what you did see? On a scale of 1 to 4, of course, because that will never die. So it'll follow me to my grave.
True. So we've generally talked about like wrestling as a whole, but I guess this question is more for me and Keith. Like, what would you say has been your favorite wrestling thing that you've watched, from podcast until now?
My favorite thing would probably be Wrestle Kingdom from this year. It was a hell of a show, with the highlight being Alpha Omega. I really loved that match, and I would put that on a 4. I would honestly put most of what I saw from New Japan on a 4, with like the WWE content at about a 2, with some 3, little bit of 3, but it's watching the two, I've definitely leaned more towards like being a fan of New Japan than you can count that as a rap than the WWE.
For me, I'm gonna have to say it's actually 205 Live because I like the fact that somebody in WWE, I don't know if it's Triple H, whatever the hell, they've been able to transform a show that was deemed almost a failure, right? It got to a point where it was a parody, not even Enzo was helping. And I think, what was the match? It was Cedric Alexander versus somebody for one of the final. I think it was Murphy versus either Cedric Alexander or Mustafa Ali, where keep in mind that 205 Live
Didn't that
happens
get
after.
like 5 Melter stars that match?
Dude, like the crowd. Keep in mind, this is after SmackDown. The crowd was on their feet. They were not just clapping, they were on their feet for 205 Live. So those are the moments that show you, like, you can actually do high flying stuff with psychology and lure people in, people that don't give a crap about what is happening in front of them, to get them invested. And I would give that moment alone and most of 205 Live 4 out of 4 because it just does an excellent job at being able to give you a simple, easy to digest wrestling show. And you got Dave Maverick, you know, the former Rockstar Spud from Impact Wrestling. You got him in there. And you got Murphy from NXT. He's doing awesome. And then you got Hideo Itami, who honestly has just never fit in WWE in any form. I'm sorry, Hideo, go back to being Kenta, because this WWE thing, it has never worked. And it's not going to work. Sorry, man.
Get it out there. Just let it out, Juan.
And Ryan, would you like to rate your nothing on a scale of 1 to 4?
It was
well,
a 4 out of 4.
I guess you
Just
saw
stepping
WrestleMania.
away.
You saw WrestleMania, so what
I
would you
did see
give that on a
WrestleMania.
1 to 4?
I did watch the Jericho Omega versus Alpha versus Omega. I did see that, so that was good. But I think just taking a break from most of wrestling was what I needed.
That was your 4 out of 4. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Indeed. So thank you. Our next one comes in from David R. asking, how much of the build-up have you watched regarding WrestleMania? And did you enjoy it?
Yeah, so this is like, I think, context in wrestling. We sort of talked about this a little bit. So did any of us watch clips, just anything to sort of give us more clues into what was happening?
I think two promos. I watched Reigns' like initial promo on Lesnar, like the really good one where he was knocking on Lesnar for being like a part-timer and all that good stuff. So that was probably one of Reigns' best promos that I've seen. And then I also watched one of John Cena's promos when he was trying to like initially call out The Undertaker. I might have actually seen 2 of those. That was about all I watched, but they were good promos.
For me, it was pretty much the Ronda stuff, just because I was super curious about her promo level and the involvement. You know, I saw the thing with Dana Brooke, and a lot of it was cringy. So I really had low expectations going into that tag match. So I was very pleasantly surprised. But I wanted to see, you know, how she fit, and I still don't think she fits in, like, as a sports entertainer. But if she can get the Kurt Angle treatment, I mean, when she's literally teaming with Kurt Angle, we could have the next Kurt Angle. So hey, you know, very happy about that.
Indeed. Yeah, I basically watched I didn't watch the shows weekly, but I kept up weekly from the Rumble all the way to Mania. And I thought the build-up itself was better than the show, because I had really high expectations for the card this year that overall I would say were not met. And a little disappointing, but I think they did a good job with the actual WrestleMania build this year, especially when it came to at least being curious about what Ronda was going to do in the ring and what you could have potentially had with AJ Nakamura and how they're going to pull off this Roman Brock match. Now, 2 out of 3 of those things were not good answers, but the build itself was still interesting. And I don't regret keeping up there.
No regrets.
So thank you for that. We got a comment. Our next comment is from the True Prince of Pro. Hello there.
Hello.
And they say, True Prince. And True Prince of Pro makes no promises that they won't cry a little.
What do you say?
Listening.
They? He's one person. You always say they. What? It is
he
one
said,
guy.
I make no promises that I won't cry while listening to the hashtag BT reunion.
They can be singular when I'm talking about them. but he promises he won't cry while listening to the BT reunion.
I think
And
you're
that's
just
the
giving
important
yourself
part.
too much work by instead of just directly quoting, you were trying to like say it from your perspective and
For
change
them.
it so you were talking about
Because
them.
I don't want it to make it sound like I won't cry while listening to the
But you
BT
could say True
reunion.
Prince of Pro says, quote.
Yes, I could do that. I could have
You
taken that
could.
route.
You
I
Low
could.
effort Keith. True Prince, by the way,
Actually,
we
he
gave
was doing more work than he needed to.
true,
Yeah,
true.
that's not
High
low
effort, Keith. High and low effort, but just want to take a quick second. You know, I think we mentioned it during one of the last episodes. I'll mention it again. True Prince, easily one of our favorite people in Byte That because he was directly involved with a lot of the stuff. He made episode 100 a blast to be a part
when
of.
they say parents don't pick favorites, they're lying.
I'm not okay. People don't be throwing anything to me. I'm just saying, like True Prince made episode 100 and 200 awesome, and once again, it shows the dedication that a lot of you had. That it was far more than a wrestling podcast. I actually brought up Byte That as an example recently, like last week at a speaking arrangement, because a lot of you would go out of your way to talk about the situations you were going through and how we were helping you just by being here, you know, with the podcast. So like you really never know who you're reaching out to or who you're helping have a little bit more company just by doing a show. So from True Prince to everybody, just thank you.
Yeah, I can't say enough that the hardest part about ending it wasn't let me reiterate that because I shouldn't have went with wasn't there. Now you're in my head, Juan. So thank you for that. But like the hardest part about walking away from this was saying goodbye to the community that we built up around it. Like that made it worth it every single week. And True Prince was really a pillar of that. And I miss you, love you. Please don't cry too much while listening to this show.
But yeah, 100%. Like when we were talking about ending it, it was the big thing was the hardest part was telling everybody because we knew we were gonna let a lot of people down. So that was definitely the hardest part, but we felt like it was the right thing to do, and I think we can all agree that it was the best thing for us. But hey, we're not too hard to find, you know.
The best decision isn't always speak for yourself there, but the best decision isn't always the easiest decision.
Good point.
So thank you
of
for
us
that.
aren't too hard to find.
Indeed. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for now, TJ Kinder asks, how has life been since the end of the show? Haven't heard from you in a while. I'm assuming you're speaking to me.
Yep.
And hope you are doing well. Miss you, brother. So should I just go?
That was directed towards you. I took that out. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Life has been awesome. Yeah, I really have no complaints. I said it at the end of our last show that I was going to take a little sabbatical from the public and just kind of work on building a life for myself because I did just recently move away from my home and was starting fresh, and things have been great in that respect. Made a lot of friends, met a wonderful lady. She makes sure I don't get into too much trouble, and things are going great there. I'm as happy as can be. And now just starting to think about what's next. I'm getting that itch again. You know that itch.
You should
And
go
not
see a
like
doctor.
I was gonna say not the one where you have to go see a doctor for, but just kind of like getting the itch to
project,
going out there and like to start a project. Perhaps. But no, everything's been great. I am honestly right now, I would say that I'm the happiest that I've been in a very long time, and I hope I don't jinx that by saying
Tomorrow's
it.
gonna be like the worst freaking day ever.
Oh, there's a chance now that I've said that, but things are good in Keithland.
Good.
Do you guys want to talk about how life's been, even though you've still been out there doing your thing?
I'm just thinking of the clickbait headline: "Man quits podcast. Life is
Falls
better
in
off
love."
for it." Man quits podcast. Life dramatically improves.
Wow. 4 out of 4.
Find out why doctors hate him. Does it have to do with the itch?
Oh God, no! That would explain so much of it. Okay, this is Keith. Just the question was geared towards you. We're doing great. I got no hurricanes yet. If you get a hurricane in Puerto Rico, then shit's gonna be sour again. But hopefully that doesn't happen again. Probably will. I'm gonna cry now.
Oh no. Well, we better move on then to our next question from TMK Tanner, who
Oh boy.
asks, "What is our toast level?"
Okay, for
Now,
context.
for context, you know what? While Juan explains it, I'm going to go to our Twitter and retweet the toast graph, so you can really follow along with this conversation at Byte That Cast. Now, Juan, please explain.
Okay, so he sent us a grid, and yeah, look for it on Twitter. Don't have time to get it up on screen. Just the different levels of toast, from like just simple white bread, just a little bit warm, to like pure black, from a scale of 1 to 9, and A to J. And I think that this is a very controversial topic because people's levels of toast are a little bit different. So I'm curious. Let's start with our white meat baby face, Mr. Ryan McNulty. Talk to me about this, my brother. Do you
Shouldn't I
identify
be the
with number
white
one?
bread baby face for this one?
I get it.
um,
I want to
so-
run away from this show right now as fast as I can.
Don't.
All right. For the puns, you know. So I would say I like a good I would say I'm an H4 type of guy, you know. I like a good amount of toastiness, but not to the level of being like burnt.
Could that be a
Like, not-
shirt? I'm an H4 type of guy.
Move over, Paul Heyman, guys. Ryan's an H4 guy.
Yep.
Yeah. I have to agree. I'm definitely in the same ballpark, but I would put myself at more of like a 6E or E6.
He's just a 6y guy.
Sexy boy.
He's just a 6y boy.
Toasty.
Not too burnt, but enough that when you butter a good piece of toast.
Do you like
how
the
it,
sound?
Oh, I love the sound. Oh, it's so good. And how it doesn't really flatten the toast, it just glides on the top of it. That is a good
Ooh.
piece. That is a good piece of bread right there.
Do you take the butter immediately out of the fridge and then apply it, or do you take the butter out of the fridge and leave it, on the countertop for a little while so it gets a little SAWFT?
No, I directly apply it because you get to see that little bit of melt that happens. But
The
honestly,
Meltzer driver, man.
Oh my god.
we need to end this sooner rather than later. 'Cause Juan is going back to his old state, and it's not good.
I got
But
the rust
honestly,
off.
I haven't used butter a lot on toast. When I have it, I
Peanut
don't
butter
need.
though.
Yeah, I'll
Ooh,
just go
yeah.
right to the peanut butter. Take me right to the money shot, baby. And but honestly, I don't eat
Melted
toast
peanut
that
butter
much.
on toast.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. For me, I'm
So
gonna
good.
say it's like
the money shot.
I'm thinking 5D. 5D. I think I like that. Feel pretty good about it because I think you could either both have it as just like butter and toast, or if you have a sandwich with it, like I guess like that would be even the question. I could get really deep into this topic because are you eating the piece of toasted bread with butter or by itself, or is it going to become part of a sandwich? Because I think that leads to another conversation. So I'm just sticking with 5D because I think I could do either one with that kind of toast.
And there's your box quote. I'm just a 6y boy. So thank you for that. Our next comment comes from Nick M, or as you may remember him, NKBE1324, who says, "Not a question, but a comment. I miss looking forward to Wednesday night so I could listen to the podcast. No matter how busy I'd be, I'd always find time to listen every week. It made me enjoy wrestling more, and for that, I thank you." Well, NKBE1324, thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, my friend, truly, truly appreciate it. And
Rip
regardless
Byte
of
That.
regardless of however we feel about wrestling and all that, Byte That technically is ending, especially after today, like officially, right? Like we're just gonna bury this. We're gonna burn this down. Burn it down.
Yeah. We're
But
burying the crap out of
Yeah.
this podcast.
And as you probably agree with, after the last about 5 minutes, we really need to old yeller this thing. So we're going to take it behind the bar.
Meltzer drivers.
Ugh. So our final question/comment comes from longtime friend of the show, Cynical Cypher, who says, Well, first, I need to start off with a thank you. Over the last few years, you guys have been a pivotal part of my week, and for the last few, it always felt like something was missing. Thanks for entertaining me, making me cringe, Juan
Oh
says you're
yeah. Oh
welcome,
yeah.
making me laugh, Keith says you're welcome, and thanks for creating such an outstanding community. I sincerely mean that this podcast made me feel like a part of something, and for that, I cannot thank you enough. I wish you the very best in your futures. Again, thank you. So, why is all of this Keith's fault?
Just everything about him, really.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
Hashtag blame Keith.
Hashtag blame Keith forever.
No, but seriously, like we've developed so many friends. Like we're gonna talk a little bit about more about what we're really doing or gonna be doing, and although a large part of you obviously have not really followed what we've been after afterwards because it's more video game content and it's not wrestling, so it's perfectly understandable. We talked about that in the last episode that I was involved with, which we're clear. You were in it for the wrestling. We're not doing wrestling, although I still do some of the pro wrestling loot unboxings. It's not the same, right? But we love the fact that Kane Yo-Yo, True Prince, Cynical Justin, Taven. Like, there's been a lot of people that have made that transition, or even on the Press Pause Discord, and more so than like people that listen to a podcast. They become friends. They become just part of the people that we chat with on a daily basis, and more so than talking about the past, like from a sad standpoint, it's like we urge everybody that wants to just hang out with us now. Like, once again, there is a Discord, not to plug it just because it's a Press Pause one, just because it's the one that we're all in right now. It's a presspause.tv/Discord. So you can join there. There is a wrestling part, and I do talk about wrestling there. We got TJ Kinder, who also wrote. Cynical Justin's there. Justin Boannon's there. So a lot of the people that would send questions to us every week are there, right? So once again, you're more than welcome to join that. And so with that, we transition to what are we up to? So starting first with Mr. McNulty, what are you up to after the world of Byte That?
Yeah, so once we ended Byte That, I started streaming on Twitch. And for a while, it was like the fall into the winter. It was kind of just me figuring out
Finding
what the
yourself.
hell. Yeah, I had to find myself. I was on a journey, an inward journey to discover who I was. Um, and it turns out I'm a 10-year-old kid that likes to play Pokemon. But so um, yeah, I was started streaming all throughout the fall, and then I eventually landed on like getting into streaming Pokemon because it's something that I could stream. Like, you can get a lot of mileage streaming it. I really love Pokemon. You guys know I left a podcast to catch a Pokemon in Pokemon Go.
Never forget.
So you guys know I got a soft spot for Pokemon. So that's been going great. I got affiliated in January, so now people can subscribe to my
Congratulations.
channel. And we've had a lot of growth. It's been awesome. At one point, I even like right when I was about to shut off a stream, I got hosted by two of the biggest people in Pokemon on YouTube, like A Drive and this. One of them was A Drive, and another guy like Crimson Seabad. They're like a big on YouTube. So 1,000 people just showed up into my
Literally,
stream.
actually
All at
1,000.
once.
He's
Yeah,
not making
literally
that up. I was there
1,000
live.
One was there for it. I was just like, oh wow, I was very overwhelmed. But it's been awesome. I definitely want to thank Kane Yo-Yo, who like I met through this podcast. He's a part of our community. He's now my mod on my Twitch channel. Justin Bohannon's been a super great supporter. Cynical Cypher has been awesome. Cody Collier has showed up to a lot of streams. Wizard of Gore. I hope there's nobody I'm forgetting, but there's been a lot of people who
If you
helped.
are, they'll tell you about it in your stream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I forgot your name,
So
I'm sorry.
please give
But there's-
Ryan all of the shit for me.
All of the
for
hate.
Me.
Yeah. There's been a lot of great people who have helped to like jumpstart Twitch by coming to hang out, and I super appreciate that.
Mhm.
So,
And if you want to check it out, it's twitch.tv
Yeah.
/the Ryan McNulty, and my personal Twitter is @the Ryan McNulty.
And we'll tweet out links to all of this stuff after the show, just so it's
Yep.
there and fresh on the timeline. So I guess it's my turn now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I mentioned earlier, I'm starting to get that need to see the doctor itch to start something up again. And right now, I don't have anything formal to announce, but I'll leave you with a little teaser, a little tickle of the taint that if you miss me talking to you about wrestling in a weekly capacity, I highly invite you to stay tuned to what's coming next. And it should be very, very soon. Should have something that you may be interested in.
How is that not just like straightforward saying something? It's like,
'Cause,
hey, if you like
yeah.
this,
If you like that, I'm not saying, hey, we're doing this and it's starting here and then, but something might be coming down the pipe.
This is like Vince McMahon's XFL announcement.
Yeah.
We're doing the XFL. Do you have any details to share? No.
no, but we're doing it.
Yeah, I learned
it's
from
happening.
the best.
We're gonna get the right people, and we're just gonna make it awesome.
Exactly.
know.
That is exactly what
Do
I'm
you have any
going to
specifics
do.
to share? No, we're gonna get the right experts. They're gonna make
Yep.
things perfect.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, Keith, if they
stay
want to
tuned
reach
for
out
that.
to you, how?
Well,
Carrier pigeon.
Yes, for now, carrier pigeon, but I think it's time I finally get on this social media train.
What? What?
And start new. So let's say maybe by Friday this week,
Oh my God.
I might have a Twitter
Okay, well,
that I
people,
use.
we will share the shit out of that. Okay. We have to.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
we will.
I'm going to and beyond that, I'm gonna take a couple kicks at the can, see what I like doing, see what I don't, see what works, and go from there.
Awesome. So with me, it's been quite the roller coaster because we are having a lot of internet problems, even just today. Like, this was originally going to be going live, but we've been having a lot of upload problems. So even before Byte That ended, like, about a year before that, my wife, Nicole, and I, we started Press Pause streaming on Twitch. She had already had Press Pause for a while, but obviously Hurricane Maria kind of destroyed that. So there was a little while, like about 2 months ago, where we were able to stream almost every day and it was working. All of a sudden, the internet crapped itself. So we've not been able to stream. And, the ISP says, hey, this is working. It's not. So you can follow us at twitch.tv/PressPauseTV, PressPauseTV on social media, PressPause.tv for the website, PressPause.tv/Discord for the Discord. Whenever the hell we can stream, that's going to be happening. On the personal level, I do have a YouTube channel, so that's youtube.com/EpicJC. I've just been having a fun doing content. Like, instead of just like not doing stuff until I figure out what I really like doing, I figured just why not just have that? It's like I always say, like Epic Journey. Like, the reason I say that's because it's like I want to be able to find out what kind of content I like doing. So, like, I got stuff where I talk about mental health, gaming. Like, I got a Way Out review happening on Friday. I don't know if you guys have played that. It is freaking awesome. I will replay that with you guys if either one of you want to play it. You don't need to buy it, is the cool thing. As long as I have a copy, I can actually play with one of you two. That game is freaking awesome in co-op.
We will talk, because I would
Yeah.
be interested in that.
Yeah, dude, we got to make it happen. Like, I enjoyed playing that so much, and it's like a short 5 to 7 hour game. So yeah, the Epic JC across social media, YouTube, Twitter, and I do have another project that's going to be happening possibly after May. It's going to be in Spanish, though. I'm going to start to produce some more mental health type stuff, so like super serious topics. That being said, I just want to leave like a funny comment. So on Friday, I was doing this thing that I mentioned the podcast as an example. So picture like me talking about suicide, mental health, and all that stuff, right? I see a kid that you know how you can tell, like, whenever you see somebody's face and you've seen them, but you can't pinpoint from what. I was at a gaming panel about 2 months ago, and in this mental health thing, he's like, do you do YouTube, and like have you been in a panel? All of a sudden they're asking me about the YouTube channel. I'm like at a university representing the government. I'm like, oh, I do not. It's like my biggest fear was getting these two things combined. It is literally happening right now. Can this please
You're
end?
you're like the Power Man 5000 song, When Worlds Collide.
Oh my
Boom,
God, that's
Power Man
true.
5000 reference.
And I think that with that, we can officially
Well, what
just
about
begin.
Game Club? You didn't even talk about that
Oh, okay,
one.
okay. Well, hey, I plugged a lot of stuff. Okay,
Boom,
so
Power Man 5000
yeah.
reference.
So okay, something that is super cool that I was thinking about this with Bo Segrist, who's a longtime supporter of the show. I was thinking about this in summer of last year. Obviously, things got put to a halt. I was like, okay, what is something that I can build with Nicole that the community can really gather around and be motivated to do something? So I figured out, okay, let's do a game club where every month we pick one game priced at $20-$30 or below, a relatively short game that's available for at least more than one console. Then we all pick it, we all vote, and we play that game for that month, and we talk about it on the Discord. And then after that month, I do a video about it with your comments. We even post questions about it on Press Pause, and it's been awesome. We still have like a small community. It's about 12 to 15 people that are participating, but it's a matter of growth, right? Slow growth. And it's cool, right? How there's a lot of these older games that become cheaper, but when you play them, you don't have anybody to talk to about it because everybody moved on, right? They're talking about the new game. So the game club is purposely talking about games that came out a little while ago, games that are between 5 to 10 hours. So it's cool how you can relive games you've already played and just can get to talking about those, or those hidden gems, like games that you always heard about. And it's like you need that final motivation, that final excuse to be able to play that. Like that's what the game club's all about. So if you want to learn more about that, got a couple of videos about it on the YouTube channel. And once again, the Discord people, if you want to hang out with the three of us, the easiest way is to join that Press Pause Discord. On our phone, there's an app like presspause.tv, not .com/Discord. So Discord people, get in that damn thing. Get on the damn Discord. Keith, write something on the
Yes.
Discord. I love you, buddy.
I will. I will. I will. I will.
All
right.
So,
This is it, hey?
yeah. Then
Snap. Suplex.
how are we feeling? How are we feeling now? Like okay, starting with Ryan, who mentioned at the very beginning, like this was the lingering thing, right? Now that it is no
Yes,
longer
yeah.
lingering, how is that?
Yeah, it feels good. I feel like we close things out right. We've had a lot of time to reflect on that decision to end things, because a lot of times, like, oh, you end the somebody ends a project and then you just never hear about it, right? So this was kind of nice that we were able to, we concluded the podcast in a somewhat fulfilling way, but definitely left some things hanging. That so to come back to do one more show 7 months later, we can talk about our experience with things ending. So this feels great to just to conclude things the right way, and I'm happy to kind of do this one last time with both of you here.
I agree. This was almost like borderline therapeutic. Just
Definitely.
here's our pretty little bow on Byte That, and I'm happy that we had the opportunity to do it, and I'm gonna miss it, guys. I'm gonna miss it so much.
Yeah, man. I'm just happy. Like, it killed me. Seriously, you guys don't know how much it killed me to listen to you two struggling with that last episode, because I know it's not the way we wanted
How much it killed me to listen to you two assholes.
Yeah,
it's like, oh my
thanks.
God.
You
No,
weren't
you-
no spring chicken either.
Yeah. No, but you guys know what I mean. It's like nothing worse than like something ending abruptly and not complete, right? Like the whole thing was not there. So the fact that it's like, here we go. We talked about why the three of us are here. And the fact that a couple of months happened, because initially we were thinking about doing this maybe in December, but it's like we wanted to make sure that we had ample time away from what we've been doing so we could reflect on it, differently. And And I know that I'm saying it right now, this is not going to be the last time the three of us work together. I've already asked you guys to be involved in some stuff for my channel. Like,
and same thing on my end. Let's say that this theoretical wrestling podcast starts. You guys absolutely have an open invitation if you just need to scratch the wrestling itch.
we will scratch that itch. So people, once again, be on the lookout.
In fact, that's the name of the show. Scratch that.
Oh my God, we got that. We can get a couple doctors in, get some pictures, get problems, and we're ending the show talking about scratches. So people, please, very important, something we forgot to talk about, the podcast feed. So we made a commitment to get the podcast feed up until this. So between the next month or two, the podcast feed will probably be going down. So if you haven't already, this is the point in time where you think about downloading that, because keep in mind, the YouTube channel only has from like episode 30 something and up. So like the very first episodes are nowhere else but the podcast feed. So even I'm going to download a couple that I've lost with hard drive problems and all that. And we were able to keep that going because of the Patreon money. We split some stuff, but we made sure to keep enough money in there. So the past couple of months, the podcast feed has existed because of your support. So thank you for every person that, even if you put just $1 or bits weren't a thing there, but when we did Twitch for a little while, the Byte That Twitch, when we started doing YouTube live streams and people were donating there, thank you. The fact that you guys put any amount of money into us, for the 5 of you that bought the t-shirts, thank you.
Yeah.
Seriously, every little dedication. I am going to miss this. I was very emotional today just because it's like, it's something that I love doing, and Byte That to me, more so than a podcast, more so than a YouTube channel, it was kind of like, I think Ryan mentioned, it was part of our life for 4 years. Like we lived not just WWE, but we lived Byte That, and that's why we tried to do so many different things. And I think like Byte That has helped me professionally. I think it motivated you, Ryan, to stream on Twitch, because I mean, you don't sound, and I mean this in the best freaking way possible, like you don't sound now how you did when we first started doing all this stuff. And I know it's because of Byte That. Same thing with me.
100%.
And with Keith.
Night and day. It's scary. I tried, because you, after it was all done, you posted episode 0.
Yeah.
I made it 5 minutes into that, and just
oh my God.
I wanted to rip my vocal cords out of my throat. It was so bad. Like, how did you used to sound like that?
Yeah, those episodes were bad. They were a different kind of cringe.
So,
they were a different kind of cringe.
Maybe it's a good thing that they're going away, and we're keeping all the good stuff up on YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube channel is going to exist forever. Not because we're going to bring it back. Please, people, I do not want anybody to go like, hey, Keith mentioned a wrestling thing. This was a wrestling thing. No, okay? This is very much dying, but the YouTube channel is going to be here for archival purposes.
Let me be clear. If I'm going to do something in the future, it is on my own.
Yes.
Byte That. This is the official last episode of Byte That.
Damn. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for supporting us for 4 years. Keith, say something positive. I feel like that cannot be the last thing you say on this. Say anything positive. Just 10 seconds, man.
I love you. I hope you all love me. Thank you for being a part of the Byte That family. With a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you please support us in the future too?
Ryan, go. You got 10, 15 seconds.
Thank you, everyone, for anyone who's ever listened or supported the podcast. Thank you so much. I'm not hard to find, as I said. I stream 5 days a week, sometimes 6. So even like if you want to ask wrestling questions, I don't follow it super closely, but happy to give my opinion and just chat and hang out. So yeah, find me on Twitch.
Yes, and once again, youtube.com/epicjc and presspause.tv/Discord for not just me, not just Ryan, but anybody that's been involved in this process. So with this, we officially conclude the Byte That reunion. I am so happy we got a chance to do this. I can't stress enough how thankful I am for not just Byte That, not just the fan support, but you two. Seriously, thank you. Like I do a lot of public speaking, and it's thanks to the fact that I hung out with these two crazy guys for 4 years that my English got even better, and I feel so comfortable talking about so many different things. I'm gonna miss doing Byte That, and I hope to relive or revitalize some things that the essence of Byte That can live through everything that we're doing. And you can see us hang out in Ryan's Twitch streams or whatever. We're gonna make sure we're connected. So thank you so much. Stay awesome, people. Support each other. And until further notice, and up until whatever we're doing on individual levels, the Byte That journey, if you will, has officially concluded. So thank you, gang. Stay awesome and have yourself an awesome life. Take care, everybody.